Welcome to State of Affairs. I'm Steve Adubato, coming to you from the Agnes Varus NJTV studio in beautiful Newark, New Jersey. We're honored to have once again Kevin O'Toole, Chairman of the Board of Commissioners of the Port Authority of New York, New Jersey, former New Jersey State Senator, served in the legislature for how many years?
22.
22. Let's do this. We'll do some Port Authority stuff, talk about some political discourse. You are a contributing columnist for Insider NJ. Check it out, folks. Great political stuff. You have written extensively on the political discourse, how nasty, how personal, how negative it is, and it's not productive to getting things done. You were part of the darn thing, Senator, my good friend Kevin, for 22 years. Did it change during that time? Is it just that now? And what's it about?
Well, I'm in a different role now, and maybe I'm a better coach than a player. No, I mean, part of what I was there for the 22 years, part of it's theater, part of it's you have this firm belief, part of it's just a real honest disagreement. And did I elevate my voice on occasion? I've been known to do that. So here's what, if you ask me, if you want to go back in time when Florio did the tax increase,
Jim Florio, former governor, 1993,
and the hands across New Jersey got very angry. They were burning tissues and whatnot. At some point, Chuck Italian becomes a speaker. I think
of the House.
Then you start seeing a divide. Then because the vitriol becomes really inflamed, and you saw a real partisan divide. And then nationally, you saw when Newt took over as the speaker,
Newt Gingrich.
94, 95, you saw a national divide. When Governor McGreevey came in 2002, January, he kind of fueled that fire. Now, Jim McGreevey's doing God's work now. We love what he's doing with
New Jersey Reentry Corporation, recidivism, second chances
doing
for
great
ex-offenders.
stuff, but he wouldn't look at a Republican if they were on fire back in 2002. He just had his Democrats, he had his majority, and he ramrodded stuff through
What about today, Kevin?
the legislature. I think, well, listen, it's a different dynamic now. So when you saw what the Democrats did, they were jacked up against Governor Christie, and everything was a no, no, no. You know, I think they're going to give Governor Murphy a little more time and breathing room, although you read about some discourse.
You really do? You think the Democrats are going to be as cooperative? We have actually in this studio today, New Jersey State Senate President Steve Sweeney will be in. He'll share his views on the millionaire's tax, whether he thinks there's another way to go, on the pension situation. Is it easier when the Democrats control the Assembly, the Senate, and the governorship to, quote, get things done on behalf of the people?
Well, I mean, look, we've read all of the comments between Murphy and Sweeney and the Speaker and Murphy, and they seem to be getting along from a distance. I assume as they get together for the budget, they're going to have to rally around and have some agreement, and I think that's going to happen. Look, and the reality is that the legislature is large and in charge. They are a co-equal form of government. Now more than ever, they're going to assert themselves and be heard. I think Governor Murphy's been doing a great job handling the legislature and working with them in a very calm, rational, reasonable voice.
Switch gears. Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. One of the big issues that has come up a lot. We actually had former Senator Bob Gordon, who's now going to be on the Board of Public Utilities. Lots of movement around. One of the things he talked about, and Senator Loretta Weinberg, you know well, kept talking about transparency at the Port Authority, oversight, so that people knew more about how you did what you do and make the decisions you make every day. How has that changed in the last couple of years?
First of all, I think Loretta Weinberg and Gordon and Senator Gordon are responsible for a lot of that transparency. Chairman Degnan responsible for really taking the shroud off what occurred at the Port Authority. And now with the new leadership and some folks like Rick Cotton, the executive director, who is sensational. He's an excellent partner. He's the best public servant I've ever worked with in my life, bar none. I think the two of us working together are bringing really good things in a very transparent way in New York and New Jersey.
Senator, let's be specific. Some of the most important projects, and do we lead with the Gateway Tunnel? Is the Gateway Tunnel, whether it gets done or not, as we do this program mid-April 2018, we don't know where the president is on this, where Washington is. There has to be a balance between federal and state money. That tunnel going into New York City, back and forth, right? First, you believe it'll happen. Second of all, what does that have to do with the Port Authority?
Yes, and the Port Authority is a critical piece of funding. New York, New Jersey, the feds.
You also regulate the Lincoln Tunnel.
We do, in the Holland, and the number of bridges.
George Washington Bridge, the airports, et cetera.
You name them.
Path.
6 airports, but it's critical, and I think we're slowly getting there. I think that, you know, we have not engaged, the Port Authority has deliberately not engaged with the public discourse, allowing the U.S. Senate and the House of Representatives deal with the White House on that, and they're moving it along. I think we're going to get there.
I'm curious about something when it comes to transportation. We're actually in a discussion with the folks at the Port Authority about possibly doing a series that increases public awareness about transportation issues, trans-states, New York and New Jersey. And we've talked to you about this. Do we know as citizens enough about how people and goods and services get back and forth between New York and New Jersey? And is that our business as citizens or your business as policymakers?
The answer is we don't. I didn't have a clue. I've been in this state for 53 years, been involved in government for 30 years. Until I got to the Port Authority in July, I didn't have a clue as to how we move our commerce, whether it's the docks, whether it's the trains, whether it's the shipping, whether it is through the airlines. It is a massive industry that is kind of under the radar. The trucking industry, the transportation needs that we have, the infrastructure has to be in place to service just this tri-state area in terms of the goods and services we consume.
What happens when a bridge is crumbling underneath, or it's in disrepair, if you will, or the trains aren't working? What happens to commerce and people moving back and forth?
It's a major letdown. The fact is we have not invested enough in our infrastructure until we did the Transportation Trust Fund replenishment last year, which it was a bipartisan deal. Until we did that, we had no way to say we're going to fund bridges and roads going forward for the next 5 or 7 years. Bipartisan, we got together, Senate President Sweeney and the governor got together, and we put that money, where it counts, and making sure
you meant Governor Christie.
I did mean.
I just want to be clarified that you meant Governor Christie.
I did. So the reality is, if we don't invest in the infrastructure now, you're going to have problems like we saw in Miami, we saw in Minneapolis, where bridges and roadways are crumbling and
does it have
die.
to? Sorry for interrupting, Kevin. Does it have to come down to that? I think horrible event.
I think, unfortunately, it doesn't have to, but I think it shakes the consciousness of America. It shakes us awake to saying, what do we have to do? It's no longer just, you can't be against bonding or putting up significant dollars. The most ardent Republican has to understand the consequences if we don't put real money into roads and bridges and tunnels.
That's not a partisan issue.
It has developed to partisan.
It shouldn't be.
It shouldn't
the way
be.
I meant to say,
it shouldn't be. And you saw Senators Orho and a number of others who came to the forefront, who took a beating, who suffered a primary and a general election beating after they voted for that Transportation Trust Fund replenishment. And they all won, by the way. Every person who voted for the Transportation Trust Fund and that gas tax as a Republican, they won their seats.
20 seconds before we let you out of here. You left the Senate when?
July.
How much are you enjoying your life since then?
I love my life. This Port Authority gig is the greatest public service I've ever been able to participate in my life. On top of that, I get to see my kids, my daughter, who's a freshman in college, soon to be a sophomore. My son's about to be a senior in college. And my wife and I get to travel and do some really cool stuff.
And you have a law firm, in fact, to fully disclose, one of the underwriters of State of Affairs for some of our public policy programming. And the name of the firm is?
O'Toole Scrivo.
Just want to make sure. And Tom Scrivo is your colleague. He's had some experience in government.
A little bit. So Tom and I met in law school first day. He served as a governor's counsel the last year and a half. Most amazing lawyer in person I've ever met. Senator,
I want to thank you for joining us, as always. This is, in fact, State of Affairs. We are coming to you from the NJTV studio in Newark, New Jersey, and we will be right back.
State of Affairs with Steve Adubato is a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating over 25 years of broadcast excellence. State of Affairs with Steve Adubato is brought to you from the Agnes Veris NJTV studio at 2 Gateway. Funding has been provided by the law firm of Gibbons, P.C., New Jersey Resources, Summit Medical Group, the New Jersey Education Association, Georgian Court University, New Jersey Council of County Colleges, and by the Fidelco Group.